foreign, 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 beautiful rain. Don't disturb me, beautiful rain. Oh, come, never come. Oh, come, never come. Oh, come to me, beautiful rain. Oh, come, never come. Oh, come,
Hello,
never
welcome
come.
to WFED 9020 Leadership Development. This is the first of a three-part video that's an introduction and overview of our upcoming course. I'm going to briefly discuss the intent of the course and its context, and then establish the beginning of the culture of our learning community over these next three videos. The first part is an introduction to the themes and background that will inform our semester-long investigation. And then part two is a discussion of why I think this course is so important to you as a leader and for the overall good of our profession. Part three is a brief conversation, about performance expectations that reside with the course. I'm recording the video today from our summer home in Moosehead Lake in Maine. We are located in west central Maine, about 100 miles from Canada, that way. It's about a 4-hour drive to Quebec. And our dogs, Lily and Brandy, our two rescue dogs, are over on the porch waiting to be fed. To begin the overview, I'd like to introduce 4 themes that I think will guide my instruction for this semester, and hopefully you'll adopt as a framework for learning. Each was equally important to your future as a leader. Those themes are about creativity, curiosity, innovation, and self-reflection. At the core of leadership is curiosity and creativity. We're curious about what it is that is at the heart of things. It's an important element of scholarship, as we are seeking solid evidence upon which to base our choices and to ultimately guide our direction in our leadership practices. Creativity is what pushes us out of the mold and seeing new things and our old things in new lights. How can we break out of the molds that continuously freeze us in the straitjacket of mediocrity? Innovation requires bold new steps to implement our creative change in such ways that motivate and challenge our workers and improves the performance of our profession. Self-reflection is foundational to understanding yourself, particularly understanding yourself as a leader. It's important to take a deep and unvarnished look at your leadership strengths and weaknesses over the semester, and we'll talk about this a lot as we go along. Additionally, these elements are critical to the education and development of those who are aspiring to be leaders. It's not only are you looking at your leadership, but you're learning how to inspire and develop other leaders. Next, let me say something about the characteristic of leadership. To be a leader, you don't have to be a type A personality and be the charismatic center of your organization. You know the type of person I'm talking about. While you might be that type of person or leader, those with underlying expertise, or those with creative minds, and those who are willing to change the status quo when innovating new ideas are also leaders. You can be the quiet person who is an effective leader, even if you're not the type A. In part 2, we will explore why this course is so important to the future of our profession. Hi, welcome back to part 2. So, why is this course so important? You've probably noticed that we're living in dramatically changing times. Some of that change is based on the passing of generations and the fact of very dramatic demographic shifts. This causes traditional values, beliefs, in politics and economics to be swiftly moving in ways that can make many people feel very uncomfortable and very reactive. Another huge influence is the current and emerging technology. Never have we experienced such rapid growth in technology, and it's now having a huge effect on our daily lives. Just think about our cell phones and our computing, and even the recording of this video. I believe that this level of change is on the order of transformation associated with the movement from an agrarian society to an industrial economy back at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th. It was in those times that people migrated from rural to urban settings to find work and stable lives. And we're experiencing a migration on that order today. We are also experiencing migration on a worldwide scale as people seek safety from wars and from terrorism and from gang cultures and from issues of climate change. Historically, these migrations have had the deepest impact on those who can at least afford to respond. To those events, even more important, the change we have experienced in the last 20 years is just unrelenting. The only constant that we have now in our lives is that our lives are going to change. One of the most important change is the continued emergence of women in the workplace. A tired old tradition in education is that the leaders are men. They're often old white men motivated by racial and xenophobic views about who are the rightful owners of leadership positions. Many people think that it's time for a change to a more balanced gender distribution of leadership and the pay. Here's why the development of new educational leaders at this point of history is so important. Given the dramatic effect of constant change, how are we to educate our children in the upcoming adults for work and for life in this new era? Our nation needs you and leaders like you who are prepared to take on these challenges. It will take curiosity, it'll take creativity, it'll take innovation, and a ton of self-reflection. In the next video, I'll discuss a little about the preliminary structure of our mutual course. And now part 3. This is just a little discussion about our mutual course, and we'll discuss this more when we meet face-to-face in our first class. This course is probably going to be a little different than those that you've come across in the past. I don't plan any huge written assignments for this semester. There will be no test, and there is to be little, if any, emphasis on grades. We will read extensively. We'll engage in personal and electronic discussion. We'll have meaningful debates. We reflect on ourselves as leaders and teachers and developers of future leaders. You can read more about this in the syllabus that's presented in the course overview on the ELC site. Our course is developed around modules supporting the themes associated with educational leadership development. So here's kind of a list of the modules as I have them now, and we may decide mutually to change the order of these, but these are the major topics. First is establishing a working definition of leadership, and there's lots of them, and so we'll have to do a lot of examination and choice and debating about what our working definition is going to be. Then we'll examine the underlying theories of leadership. Some of those are the old tried and true theories, and others are going to be just emerging in the educational literature and into practice. Next, we'll discuss the nature of organizational culture in educational settings. Issues such as organizational direction and the purpose of our institutions will play a major role in that type of discussion. Speaking of cultures, the next focus is on developing leaders that promotes learning. It's a focus on learning as opposed to the focus of the politics of the district or the institution in which it resides. Following that discussion, we'll talk about the need for leaders that promote social justice and inclusion of everyone. Nearing the end of the course, we'll borrow on organizational behavior literature to examine the nature of motivation. Why do people do what they do? Then we'll examine the nature of power within organizations. What are the types of power? Where and when is each type of power most effective? Our last formal topic will be all about you as a leader and what directions you see for yourself in your future. While this while this topic is formally at the end of the course, you will find it represented throughout all of our class discussions. These topics are in order that I created, but you will soon discover that this is your course to shape and mold to fit your needs as an educational leader. And I invite you to participate in that discussion. At our first face-to-face class meeting, we'll ascertain how we wish to organize and practice within our learning community. Thank you for taking the time to watch these short videos. I'm very anxious to be with those of you in the doctoral cohort from last semester and the new friends who will be joining us this semester. We'll see you in class.